welcome to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
You bet. We're here. The energy's flowing in the gym. It's great. It's another glorious Thursday evening.
Yes.
We're here to bring the heat. That's great.
Yes. You broke the fourth wall.
How about that?
Yes.
Yeah, we might as well. It doesn't need to exist anymore. We can't be held in. We can't be contained.
True. We are the wall.
That'd be a tough existence to be a wall.
Yeah, but you don't have to go anywhere.
Right. That'd be
Chill.
less than great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. Question for you to kick off.
Yes.
To kick off the pod. Would you like or dislike? Okay. Being a character, some superhero character of any kind, you could have all these powers. But would you like or dislike being that character and being unwittingly trapped in time, only to emerge 100 years in the future? Would you like that, or would you be like, I'm in, I'm let's do it, or are you going, this sucks?
I'm a little confused.
Yep.
So
the Captain America example,
yes,
right, where he gets essentially frozen.
Am I me with superpowers?
Are you with superpowers? Yep, you're a superhero. You can pick your superpower set, but you get Captain America, you get capsicled.
Yep.
You get thawed out. You wake up. 100 years have passed. You good with that?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
You'll be fine?
Yeah, I get over
You
it.
miss me at all? This was a test and you failed. You should say no. I'd be devastated. The JP and the Beans pod would be a miss.
I think
You'd be watching pods of me solo, weeping.
I think the trauma would be overwhelming at first,
That's better.
right?
Okay.
Like
That's better.
just
Keep
the
going.
realization of everybody that you knew, just dead.
One person in particular.
God. And then, can you imagine, like, your grand nephew and niece are the ones that are, like, older than you?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, hey, here's how you navigate this world. And you're like,
Yep.
what?
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
Super trippy.
Because right now, my bloodline from me, non-existent.
Give me time. Give me time. You got potential.
Eventually,
You got potential.
you gotta let me get there. I don't know how much more time I need to fulfill this, but so far,
We're still holding out hope.
so
you
far,
guys. We're
26
holding out
years is not long enough.
hope. No,
yet.
you've got it.
We'll see how much longer it takes. But anyways,
I think it would suck, right? Like, have you seen Interstellar? Chris Nolan?
no, I haven't, but I understand the premise and I know what happens.
Yeah. So I'm going to spoil it for you, or at least part of it for you. So Matthew McConaughey plays the protagonist in the film. Fantastic job by old McConaughey. He goes out into outer space trying to save the world because the world is dying. So he's searching for a solution to the problem. Okay. Christopher Nolan, being the trippy genius that he is, has time pass differently depending on where you are in the universe. And so Matthew McConaughey's character, when he leaves Earth, has left behind two children that are 10 and 12, somewhere in that ballpark. Okay. McConaughey spends maybe half an hour on this space planet. Okay. When he gets back to his ship, he finds out that so much time has passed that his children that were 10 and 12 are now as old as he is.
That's crazy.
It's a total mind messer. I couldn't do that. That would drive me nuts. I don't think I could actually, I don't think I could mentally be okay with it. Like, you don't think it gets kind of sugar coated with Captain America in he's a man out of time. You're kind of old school. It's like, how would it actually mess with the person in some potentially tough ways? Not saying it can't resolve well, but we're kind of skipping past some potential trauma here.
Right. Well, you look at it this way. You and I have more people to leave behind. Cap had Sharon. Or not Sharon. Peggy. Sorry. Trippy.
Ooh, good one though. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Right.
he only had Peggy.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened to his parents in the movies. Were they dead?
He was an orphan.
Yeah.
Correct.
So he's an orphan.
Yep, as far as we know, no siblings, aunts, uncles, etc.
Everybody else he cared about died.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Bucky's dead.
Yep. Yep.
So it's just Peggy.
Okay.
And they're not even like, who knows if they even kissed once, more than once. Who knows what happened with them.
Yep.
Okay.
I saw the one.
Clearly they didn't have
That's
a
what
child.
you're saying, though. There's maybe a few less highs. A little bit easier to let it go. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So for him,
okay.
Yeah,
depends. So it's person to person, kind of case by case.
Yes.
Yeah.
For us, it might be a little harder.
Yeah. 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 That's fair. That's fair.
Although leaving my immediate family behind sounds not good.
Wait, it sounds terrible. No, I don't want to do that.
That's a terrible plan. Where did he go in the ice, by the way? Antarctica? The northern pole?
Yeah, one of the very cold places.
Okay. I will not go there.
Exactly. Well, on that note, to transitioning completely seamlessly out of that, we have a lot of recapping to do today, Riles. It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Yes.
We've seen Dune Part 2.
Yeah,
wow.
we did. We saw it.
We did see it. We did see it. Yep. We saw Man of Steel. You for the first time.
Yes.
I mean, I can tell the glow off of you. Your life, it's complete now. The circle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good for you. Good for you. And of course, Daredevil Season 3 to recap. So, my goodness, all kinds of joy, and even just a touch of not insignificant news from our boy, friend of the pod, Bob, as in Bob Iger. We're here to give Bob, a crisp high five.
Yeah,
across
Bob.
the waves
Yes,
of sound. He's clearly
worth
listening.
$3 billion.
He's
just
clearly listening to the pod. Inspire us. Inspire us. We could have helped him. It could have just took a while for him to discover. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Can we we'll
negotiate.
How much do you think we're worth?
Infinity. Yeah, it's hard to put a price on priceless.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep. So let's dive in right at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Riles Dune Part 2. Real quick, going into this movie. All right, I was asked by a mutual friend, Jordan, do you think that this is the last Dune movie? I said, most assuredly it is. This is where the story ends. We're going to see some really solid resolution here. That was my expectation going into it. And that's what I'll say for now.
Yeah.
Riles, tell me, with Dune Part 2, you saw Dune Part 1, good on you. And even though you saw it and were a cold burger on it, you came back for Part 2. Bud, what'd you like? What'd you think? What was, and what was just freaking weird? Or maybe what wasn't weird? Because it's all weird.
Yeah, so first of all, my friendship with you runs deep, apparently, for me to go for round 2. Yeah,
I'm impressed.
I checked out, immediately. Yeah. No, not immediately. I gave it about 15 minutes, and then I checked out.
That's pretty good for a 2 hour and 45 minutes.
Yes, so, like I told you, opening scene, I was amused because bodies just started dropping, and for some reason, in my head, it made me laugh.
Just funny bone.
Just the magic, like, the random just drop of people, it just got me. Made me laugh really hard.
Yep.
After that, we had a long training sesh in the sand.
As one does.
Which I'm like, what?
As one does.
Whatever. I get it. It doesn't need to be 45 minutes long, but hey, I get it. Whatever. Cool that he gets to ride a worm. That's great.
Isn't it?
And then his mom went off the deep end real quick.
Almost immediately.
Yeah. The
drinks the worm poison and
what were they? The Jesuits,
the Bene Gesserit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping that they would all get massacred.
Uh-huh.
It didn't happen, unfortunately.
Very much.
But yeah, so she had like this choice, and I was like, well, we either kill you now, or you become like our mother, essentially, our watcher of of whatever. Right. And so.
The Reverend Mother.
Our soothsayer, if you will.
Sure,
yes.
Sure.
And then they're like, you didn't, oh no, we screwed up, you're pregnant. And it's like.
Feels like that should be part of the checklist where it's like, okay, before we have you take this medicine. Now, it's not, it is modern times. Yes. It's beyond modern times.
The Glacier Freeze Gatorade that you drink, the barber shop cleaning alcohol that you drank.
Oh.
That made you trip balls. Mm-hmm. Here's the one. I just thought of this plot hole.
Yeah.
The one before her could see past, present, and all the future options. they didn't know she's pregnant.
Missed that detail, didn't they?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Now that I think about that, I was like, that doesn't register that they didn't know that she was pregnant.
It's definitely a plot device, right? When you want it to work, it's going to work. When you don't want it to work, it's conveniently not there.
Yeah. And then she started talking to her fetus. And that's when I was out. Okay. Any woman, if you see a pregnant lady walking the street just talking to her baby, but not like, hey, I can't wait to meet you. And it's like
it needs to be a one-way conversation.
Right. And instead it's like,
as soon as it comes back, it's like, whoa, this isn't a boomerang.
Right. If you hear, no, that is not what I told your brother. No, I understand what you're saying, but no, you go the other way. Okay, that's not normal.
You run away from
crazy. That's crazy.
You run away from crazy.
And then for the main character, just be like, okay, yeah, well, what is she actually saying? And then just being okay with that part.
Yeah. It's I don't disagree. That aspect of it was super. It was super distracting.
It was voodoo-esque.
Yeah.
Not a fan personally, but like also just the way that they like manipulated the system. Because I guess that was the probably the redeeming quality of that group is like they are the string pullers amongst it all. Right. But like the fact like they sent the one lady to seduce the crazy guy just to continue the bloodline.
It's left in the head.
And then they're like, you made it a girl, right? It's like,
you can do that?
You can do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's listen, as a whole, it's a beautiful looking movie, and it's one that falls in this particular category of, at least the first time I saw it, easier for me to admire than it was for me to enjoy. And part of that's my own personal preferences, since I've read the book and I want the movie to, and this is just true of me whenever I read a book, as much as possible, I want the movie to follow the book. And it is what it is. I shouldn't expect that. But the ways in which part 2 deviated from the book, I found distracting. We won't spend a ton of time on Dune 2. We'll move on to other things that I know you would enjoy spending more time on, which is completely fair. But I will say, like, what I'm having the hardest time with when it comes to Dune Part 2 is that Part 1, was so faithful to the book, not 100%, but the vast majority, that it set this reasonable expectation that, hey, Part 2 is going to follow the same mold because it's being made by a director who adores the book, so adores the source material. This is a passion project. So as the movie started deviating in not insignificant ways from the book, I found that confusing because it didn't feel, excuse me, it did not feel like necessary change, especially when it's already a 2 hour and 45-minute movie following
it's an investment.
A Part 1 that was quite long as well. It's like, so we're clearly not in a hurry. So anyway, it's worth seeing. It's weird. What I'm trying to answer in my own head is, was the book weirder? I mean, the book's weird.
Probably.
As well.
Well, and it's just like, because I respect it because I understand that this was like the inspiration of all of sci-fi, essentially.
Sure.
But like at the same time, I was like, I think all the other sci-fi like learned from it in the sense of
some limits.
Too far.
Yep.
A little too weird.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. I don't mind like a weird thing here and there, but like to the extent that some of it went, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And that's just not for me. That's not necessarily to be like, hey, don't go see the movie. Go see the movie. But like, it's not my kind of movie.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I read a handful of articles after we saw the movie, just to gauge it. Now that I'd seen it, I was curious what other perspectives and reactions were. And there were a couple articles where folks were just leaning into the weirdness. Like, let's keep this weird stuff going. This is what makes it great. I thought that is such a different point of view. So apparently it's somebody's cup of tea, not mine. Now, I gotta say this. All the roles are so well cast.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Zendaya's just a beast. man,
Yeah.
she's incredible. Timothy Chalamet. Chalamet? Is that how you pronounce his last name? I don't know. Tim. We're just going to call you Tim. People call you Timothy. That's ridiculous.
Tim
You're
Chalamet.
Tim. You're Tim to us. Tim did great.
Thomas.
Tim was outstanding. Josh Brolin was his usual salty self. Rebecca Ferguson, I really like as an actress. Creeped me out in this movie.
Yeah, but
she did her job well. Right. She did her job really, really well. And Javier Bardem, fantastic.
That man is a gem.
What an absolute treasure.
That man is a gem.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. I won't dare ask you to come.
I'd tell you no anyways.
No, I know. I'm gonna go again on Sunday with my brother-in-law, and I think I'm gonna. Told you this already, but I think I'm gonna enjoy it more the second time. Now that I know what to expect. Truly, my wish is that it would have simply resolved much more similar to the book, because the book just resolves so well.
Right.
It's like, hey, just follow that line. It's a satisfying conclusion for all the characters you spent time with, whereas part 2 here ends and it just feels unresolved for characters. And that's too bad for me.
If there are other books, then that to me tells me that's worth just going into that next section.
Just call it something different at that point. So anyway.
Yeah. One last thing.
Yeah,
because this is just something that I would love for a sci-fi film to not be in the desert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Star Wars was all desert.
Tatooine, yeah, yes. Very deserty.
I feel like I should have had more examples loaded in the gun, but
there's probably something in Star Trek where there's a lot of desert.
Yeah. But you know,
it's kind of ironic that in sci-fi, as soon as you get into this, hey, we gotta show a wilderness. Like, it takes it very literally, and sci-fi is supposed to be very symbolic and subtle. And they're like, no, we're just gonna do the desert. Like, can we represent it in a different way? Desert. Okay.
Oh, we want to be hot.
Right, we're going to be hot and dry and literally nothing else.
What if we did 3 suns?
So much for subtlety.
There's always 3 suns.
Right, there's more than one.
To increase the heat.
One, we don't think you'll buy that the one sun in the desert's enough. We're going to just multiply them. Suns are going to.
Does it affect the human bodies on there? No. It's the same as one sun. Don't think about it too much.
Yeah. Just okay.
The ozone's thicker.
Okay. Yeah. You gotta love that. I did tell you what, out of all the weird things, and this is straight from the book as well, I love how they showed it in the movie, where after someone is dead, they just like suck the water out of that person. Awesome.
See,
that was so cool.
Weird, but that one made sense.
Yes.
And they also said, we're not drinking it. I'm like,
right.
Great, cool.
Right.
That's great.
Thank God I clarified that.
Please don't do that. Because that's crazy.
Right, suck it down then. Everybody take a sip. Who's thirsty?
See, then I understand why she goes crazy if she drank that.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. You ever seen the movie The Three Amigos?
No, but it's on my list. Good
for you. Great movie. There's a great scene. Here's why I bring it up. In the desert. Great scene in the desert. Stars Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin. 3 absolute gems of comedy. At some point in the movie, they are on horseback, going through the desert. It's a very long and arduous journey. And let's see, Steve Martin and Martin Short. Boy, it's hard to keep those guys straight.
I love those two together.
They're absolutely terrific. They're just dying of thirst. Their mouths are hanging open. Their lips are chapped. Martin Short takes his canteen, and I should say this is set in like late 1800s, right? So not at all modern times. Takes his canteen off his hip, opens it up, tilts it back, and sand just pours out of it onto his face. So you can imagine this person just dying of thirst. Nothing. Steve Martin opens up his canteen, not a drop of water. Chevy Chase opens up his canteen, water just pours out. He drinks it, guzzles it, spits it out, throws his canteen on the ground. As all the water pours out, and his 2 buddies right next to him are just looking at him aghast, like, hey, like, how about us? Incredible. It's such a great movie scene.
I love Chevy,
Started talking about the desert. I was like, Okay, I know where this is going.
It's been on my list for a while, and I can't find it on a streaming service.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be.
So I was going to
be a
buy
DVD
it.
You will. It's pure gold. It's fantastic. All right, well, that's a great recap of Dune 2 and a little bit of a tease for Three Amigos. Hey, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. Check it out. You know what? Before we transition completely away, so when Dune Part 3 comes out, do you even want me to ask you?
I will.
Wow, you're open to it.
I will go because, okay, this is why. I have the fact that they have multiple different houses coming after them, that's appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
Yeah.
I will strongly consider.
Yeah.
I would like to see a trailer a couple of times first.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Okay, I said we were done and we're not. For as unsatisfied as I am as of this recording with Dune Part 2, I do think I'm going to see it again and be more satisfied with it. There's some really cool stuff that could come as long as they rein in and set some boundaries on the weirdness.
I don't think they will.
I've
seen some things, Jordan.
I know.
I'm not excited about it. Hey, they're going to do some weird shit. Okay.
You're probably right.
Setting
your expectations in a healthy place. I'm allowing myself to be hurt again.
Dude, one of these families is going to be like half human, half horse. Okay, another family.
Maybe centaur? That'd be awesome.
Another family is just going to be.
You don't want centaurs?
Look,
you don't want to go to the moon?
Another person will just be. Another family will be strictly off heroin, and that's how they thrive. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you, there's going to be weird stuff. Mm-hmm. Some of them eat babies. I don't know. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cannibals. I'm sure there's the cannibal.
I hate some of that in this movie. Okay, we got to move on. We got to get away from it. All right. How about a part 3 that has nothing to do with sci-fi, has everything to do with our beloved Matt Murdock, Daredevil, season 3. Mm-hmm. Beans, you saw it
first time.
It's the first time.
It's first for me on many on this podcast.
This is so great. This is so many of the firsts for Beans. I'm excited.
My heart is opening up.
Wow.
It's just to close it again. No, I'm kidding.
Part of the Grinch grows, and then
notorious for my heart just changing sizes.
It's okay. You know what? That flexibility may be a superpower. Who knows? We'll get there someday.
Or I'll have a heart attack. One of the two.
Okay, both are possible in the same lifetime, even. Real quick, by way of setting the stage. So, Daredevil season 3. It's important to note. How did we even get here, right? How do we start with Daredevil season 3? Well, we had the Defenders squeezed in there.
Which so my dad started watching Daredevil, which is because great. I told him. And he's like, is it good? I'm like, yes, you need to watch it. So he's Darren. By the way, very sucked in to season 1 already.
I love it.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, I did have this conversation with him as well. It is very important to know Defenders. Okay, now I told him because he's like, well, do I have to watch the other stuff? I said, no. I said,
also true.
I said, you can watch the first season of Jessica Jones. It's great. You can watch the first 5 episodes of Luke Cage. Yeah. Solid.
But no, you don't have to go through everything.
Skip Iron Fist.
Correct.
This is mainly, the only one that you should probably watch is Daredevil. Mm-hmm. Because this is more of a Daredevil season.
Yeah. With
a supporting cast of other superpower heroes.
Right. Whose backstories really don't enhance the Defender storyline.
No. Because what I thought about when I started season 3, and they're like, "Oh, this stuff happened." I'm like,
"Yep,
should we watch Defenders?" But it's fine. I've seen it before already.
Yeah,
it wasn't that important.
I don't recall it, and this is probably its biggest, frankly, its biggest weakness. I don't recall how in any way it took characters and developed them further. They did things. There were fights. But
it didn't develop Matt and Elektra further? You don't think so?
I didn't think so, because Elektra came back from the dead, and so she was like this
weapon for the hand.
Right. Just
and then she snapped out of it.
Semi-conscious, yeah. So now we can go back and I'm happy to rewatch it and eat my words here, but I just don't have any tangible memory from that show that goes, ooh, this scene is where this character development happened. Whereas with Daredevil seasons 1, 2, and 3, there's myriad examples. So I think it was perfectly fine. I'm not saying Defenders was a bad season of television. It was good.
It was okay.
But I saw it the one time and that was enough.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. So, point is, Defenders happens. Matt gets buried in a building that collapses and is alive. Thank goodness. Doesn't die. Presumed dead, however, which is a tough thing. But that's where season 3 picks up. Matt isn't dead. He's alive. And before we get into blow by blows, Riles, what did you think? I'd love to hear what you thought.
Well, I got sucked in.
How can you not?
I got super sucked in. Now, again,
And you have beefs.
I do have minor beefs. Beans has minor beefs. But before we...
Together, Beans and beefs.
Yes. Beans is beefs. But anyways, I won't get too much into that right now. But I loved it. It makes me want more, and it pisses me off that we didn't.
Yep.
We are kind of, but I am
but
not.
What a break, right?
I'm nervous about Daredevil Born Again.
Okay.
I am nervous because it's left off so good. And now, because I wish they would have talked about how Fisk got out of prison again.
Yep.
And even Hawkeye, because he's out wandering around doing criminal deeds again.
Hawkeye did a great job.
Which, if I remember correctly, at the end of season 3, he wasn't supposed to be doing that. So there's a loss in translation there. So I'd be curious if they go back on that.
Yep.
But yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, it's fantastic. The guy playing Bullseye. Magnificent. I actually felt bad for him. I was not expecting to feel sympathetic towards Bullseye.
Nor should you. When would you ever expect? What a move!
Because he's a maniac,
Bullseye, right? To make Bullseye a sympathetic character, it's really, and it worked.
Yeah, no, it did.
It worked.
They tried to keep him a good guy. He tried, by them, I mean, he tried to keep himself on the straight and narrow.
Right.
Although he knew that there was this crazy streak in him. So, no, it was oh, man. And then I obviously just go straight off the deep end. But
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you finally got the opportunity to watch it. I'm excited to get deep into it here. But yeah, it's the character development in the show just flat out climaxes in this season of television. We get the best version out of all 3 seasons, including Defenders of Matt Murdock. We get the best version of Karen Page. We get the best version of Foggy Nelson. I think we get the best Kingpin, and he was great in season 1. He's great in season 2, but he's elite. He's somehow better. This
season, every time I saw him, I'm like, you twat. That was the only thing that I was thinking of. You absolute twat. I couldn't stand him. I was like, you arrogant bastard.
Yeah. He went full heel, man. Turned full heel. But the characters are so good. So good. And then Vanessa, Kingpin's wife.
Yeah, that was an unexpected little,
yeah.
Her wanting to be involved was
perfect.
Interesting.
Perfect. So we've got a lot to cover there. Let's start with our guy Matt. Okay. Again, I hold that this is the best version we get of Matt Murdock in the show. It's him at his most conflicted, his most challenged. He's taken to the absolute edge of who he is and what he stands for.
He gave up on his faith.
Right?
He's no, done. God hates me. He was determined throughout the whole, majority of that God hated him.
Yep. Yeah. And when you are able to stretch and challenge a character to that extent and to see them then bounce back, it was absolutely incredible. Loved it. He's compromised in his faith. He's literally cut off from his friends because they all are presuming him dead, and he's not breaking the news that actually I'm alive.
He didn't want to.
No. It was incredible. And Charlie Cox is just, how is he that good?
He's fantastic.
I truly I don't want to see anybody else play Daredevil.
Here's another. Do you think it's really hard for him to like take off the mask and for those scenes where he's like a normal non-blind guy would be looking, and for him to just kind of be looking off?
Focus your eyes on a different.
I feel like there'd be. I feel like that'd be so hard. I'm not even trying to make fun of it or anything. Yeah, it's like I feel like that would be so difficult to do. That
actually be a hard thing not to screw up,
and like do it in a respectful way where it's like. It actually lines up with like a blind person and not like him just staring off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's got to take more effort and concentration.
Oh, for sure.
Capable of being aware of. But man, his portrayal is so freaking solid. It's going to be really hard, years from now, whenever a Daredevil gets a reboot in a movie or show or what have you, to see someone else in that role, because he's just, my goodness, is he absolutely crushing it. So what a joy to celebrate that for now, with Daredevil Born Again coming out, just a mere 7 or 8 years after Daredevil season 3, that Charlie Cox is still our guy.
We got him in Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right. That's Spider-Man.
Caught a brick out of nowhere.
Oh, what an absolute rascal.
Just a beautiful nod.
Well, it was a great nod. Still just an all-timer. And I like that. I thought we got a great blend, too, of there was plenty of Matt Murdock time, but there's plenty of Daredevil time, right? I thought it was the right balance. The right synthesis between those two.
And this show does a great job overall of keeping that balance. Like I've said to you, I kind of wanted more lawyer stuff from him, right? Like in a courtroom,
right?
And we kind of get it, but not a
little bit more in season 3,
but not like a lot. So, but again, he was also not in that space. So it's not like it was a choice.
It's hard to be a lawyer when you're dead. But anyway, I thought Matt was absolutely horrific. Yeah. What do you think about the character?
It was good. That's sus. Matt.
Matt, stop doing it with your eyes now, can you? You're just like,
right.
Can I just? How do I?
No, his conflict, his arc just for this season is incredible, because there's a good amount of time where you're like, oh no, he's gonna kill Kingpin. Like he's dead set on crossing the line.
Legitimately his goal.
And so you're like, the whole time, you're like, is he gonna cross it? Because guess what? He doesn't cross it with anyone else.
Right.
Which makes you think like, would he not just stop caring like at that point? So for that, and I kind of like understood where he's coming from in the sense of like everybody's gotten hurt around him, so he wants to keep staying dead. And so I genuinely, my favorite like relationship in this season was him and the nun, who you find out later, big plot twist that I didn't see coming, that it was his mom, which is so fitting for both of them. But I was like, love this lady. She's awesome.
Freaking Mama Maggie, man.
So
crushing it.
Yeah. Just that relationship between those two, and how technically he wasn't ever alone. His mom was actually kind of watching over him the whole time, but she just didn't know how to say it. So I think that was probably the best relationship there. But Matt,
that's a great call.
Matt kills it. Absolutely kills it.
Yeah.
That end scene with him and Kingpin alone was just beautiful. Because you know how bad he wanted to cross the line.
It's an all-timer. That scene is an absolute all-timer. I have rewatched that particular scene in the years since seeing this season for the first time. I rewatched that particular scene, I don't know how many times, but it's so intense. It's so genuine. Where he's just yelling, you don't get to destroy who I am. I beat you. It's like, that's goosebumps every time.
Yes, and I also thought about this too, because I was like, if Vanessa didn't stay, if she wasn't there, I think he kills him. I think 100% he kills him. I think Vanessa is the reason that he doesn't, because he realizes that he's also a person.
Sure.
And has connections.
Yep.
So I also thought Vanessa was going to be dead, but that's a different topic for later. But yeah, I think she saved Kingpin's life.
Mhm.
I think that's why she stayed. So the whole time I'm like, why are you still here?
For real.
Go, you're
Yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah.
And it won't be from Matt. No. So I'm like, what are you doing?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
no, beautifully well done.
Mhm.
And just the ultimatum Matt gives him too,
Mhm.
where he's like, you're gonna stay away from everybody I care about. You're not gonna tell anybody
Who I am.
or I'm putting her in prison too. And I know you don't want that. And he's like,
right.
okay,
Like, that worked. we hit the nerve there.
He's like, damn it.
Yeah. I totally agree. The Maggie character, listen, this is something that was so apparent to me. This character could have sucked.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, it could have sucked. The twist where you discover, wait, that's his mom, could have been just cheap, thin. So the fact that it was a risky move, it's a risky move. Now, I will say in the comics that this is comic canon that Daredevil's mother is a nun.
Oh,
So
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I want to say it might even be in the Born Again comic. I think that's right, where he makes that discovery, and or she reveals herself to him. It's been a little too long since I've read it, but it could have. It's good in the comic, and it's great in the show. Like, she serves such a great purpose, because for as much as she has been in the shadows, so to speak, like watching and observing from afar, she and Matt are both, in a very real way, forced together, because someone has to take care of Matt, and so she does. She steps up, but Matt doesn't want to be taken care of, right? Matt's like, I just want everybody the hell out, just get away from me, and yet together being confronted and being forced to not get what they want, they're both both those characters are redeemed, and I thought it was just great how her character just serves as this reflection, and Matt more so than any, but Maggie nonetheless just personifies how, listen, mistakes that we make, they're not the end of us, right? It's not, period, the story's over. There's more to the story. There's more to our stories than the mistakes we make, and the ways in which we mess up. And that became really powerful through her character in this season.
And it was also not like the stereotypical mother-son relationship in the sense of where it's like, she's like, you need to be done. You need to step down. You can't be Daredevil anymore. She's like, no, you're Daredevil. You go do what you need to do. The city needs you. I know that. I'm not going to push you out, but also just don't push other people out because you need a support system if you're going to keep doing this, essentially.
Right.
So for her to like fully understand like the necessity of Matt doing what he's supposed to do as Daredevil, and also taking it on as kind of like a burden of like, this is because of me. Like, this is my burden that I have to bear because I left him.
Right.
Is also like a whole nother layer of holy crap. The fact, just the awareness of that is crazy to me. So
yeah, how that abandonment has haunted her.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you wouldn't.
No. Which I thought was perfect, because you're like, oh, his parents are gone. So if you knew, like, if you didn't read the comics and you didn't know his mom was a nun, I don't think you see that coming, period.
No.
So it's well executed.
There'd be no reason to. And it's great too how, like, I appreciate that when they're showing the flashback and Maggie ends up leaving, like, it's just human brokenness, right? It's not something criminal where, well, he or she was abusive to one or the other. Both Matt and, both Matt's dad and mom made an effort. She just couldn't do it, right? She couldn't do it. So there's just a genuine sadness there, right? So they're able to create that element of her character without compromising, like, Matt's dad, making him like some kind of a dick, where it's like, well, yeah, good thing she left him. No, it's just sad, right?
I also loved the inner dialogue he had with his dad too.
Mm-hmm.
Just like,
it's a good twist.
Oh my gosh, yes. Not just to have Kingpin in there with his inner dialogue, but just to have his dad, and like, because his dad was in his head kind of as his voice of reason.
Very much so. Yeah.
And I thought that was just very fitting.
Yeah. No, totally agree. What'd you think of Karen and Foggy in this season?
Dude, I think Foggy is very underrated overall in this entire show.
Yeah.
He's the one that is the consistency,
Steady.
calls everybody out on their bullshit, also doesn't push it either. Like, he's like, you know what? Matt's being a dick. Eventually, he'll see that he's being a dick. But in the meantime, I'm not going to abandon him because everybody else in his life has abandoned him, which I thought is like the most grown-up thing that you could do as an adult. To just be like, they're going through a phase. They'll get over it. Yeah. So Foggy is my hero throughout this entire show. Karen,
That's great.
I think it does a good job of fleshing Karen's like backstory out a lot. Yeah. So it was because she's a druggie in the comics too, isn't she? So it's not like, now was that by choice or was she forced? I can't remember.
The comics, by choice.
Okay, they're both by choice.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Not like surprising in any way, but like you also felt bad for her because there was like a lot of outside pressure from her dad.
Right.
And so
she was not in a healthy environment.
No, so she needed to leave anyways. But like, she's got some kahunas, some big old kahunas to do what she was doing. It's like, oh dang. Yeah. So, her interaction with Kingpin, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? I know what your thought process is.
But don't do that.
Terrible idea. Of course, Foggy goes in there and is like, no, you're done. Pull her out. But like for her to just be like, yeah, I killed your friend. What?
Yep. Maybe don't lead with that, but okay. Yeah, I agree. Both characters, something you can appreciate. Seasons 1, 2, and 3, they get to progress a little bit further. And I just am so grateful that they were able to pivot firmly away from any kind of Karen and Matt romance, right?
Thank God.
We could just be done and like essentially pretend like it was just never a thing.
And that's what it should be.
And correct. That did not, if that's ever going to be part of those two characters, which, listen, it is in the comics at some point, and that's fine, but it needs to be much more organic than it ever was presented in the show.
And it felt more organic at the end of this season than it did throughout the 5 episodes where they had their fling in season 2. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So I was glad there wasn't wasted time there. And your point about Foggy just being that steady presence. And just, you're absolutely right. The willingness not to abandon Matt when it would have been justified to, because Matt was being a Birdberg.
I think everyone else does in that situation.
Yeah. And so the show gave all these characters value, something to do. They weren't just existing. They had a functional and valuable purpose. Pretty dang impressive.
And they had their most success working together.
Yeah.
Power of friendship.
Yep. It's big. Truly, it's a big deal. Okay. Bullseye, as portrayed by our guy Wilson Bethel.
By the way, coming back in Born Again.
Yep.
So
good on you, Wilson.
Super excited. The first time of him showing up in Daredevil suit, holy shit. I was scared. I was like, oh damn.
Yeah.
By the way, that whole first fight scene with him where he's just throwing random crap, one of the coolest, like, underrated power sets shown on a show, and they did it so well.
They did.
It was so good.
It shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. It should look ridiculous.
Absolutely. It should be dumb as shit.
It should look like it looked in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie with Colin Farrell playing Bullseye, and he's like flicking paper clips into people's throats. It's like, yeah, it should look that ridiculous. We're like, okay, this is stupid. This is not a real thing. I bought it. Like, yep, it works.
But like when they would be like, oh, he's ricocheting the bullets off of this, and you're like, how? The baseball, he just happened to hit it the right corner just to knock his coach out in the head.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hey. Yeah. And just what a psycho. Yeah, like they give you reasons to be empathetic of him, but well, just crazy.
Well, the craziest part of the whole thing is when they first introduce him, he's really normal.
Uh-huh.
So he's completely 100% normal. And then he's stalking that girl and here it is. And then
this isn't good.
No.
This isn't going to end well.
So the only disappointment that I had with it, and this goes with Daredevil as well.
Sure.
I wanted him in the Bullseye costume.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. I wanted Daredevil back in his costume. Really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep,
that was my one beef, I guess.
I don't disagree.
One of my beefs.
I understand it worked. I understand why they had Bullseye in the Daredevil costume for as long as, but it got to the point where it was too long. Like Bullseye was trying to not be Daredevil, but try and discredit Daredevil for too long. At some point, I think there needed to be a pivot away from, just so you could get him out of the suit.
That final scene is when he should have been in the Bullseye costume.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
You can leave Daredevil in the black suit.
Sure.
It bothers me, but I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
He shouldn't have been in the Daredevil suit at that point. I understand why he was in the Daredevil suit at that point, but it should have been a Bullseye suit. Or something, or he took the horns or did something different.
Yeah.
Painted it all black.
Yeah, you gotta do something different. Yeah, and Bullseye's relationship with Kingpin. I mean, Kingpin, what a master manipulator.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. And not just of the character of Bullseye, of Dex. He goes by Dex, but I just gotta call him Bullseye. But do I even call it a subplot? Sure. The subplot of all the police corruption that Kingpin has just fostered and woven into the fabric of the city. And even while he was in prison, he's doing this.
Like the second time he did it.
Incredible. And he's done it arguably better than when we first met him in season 1. Like he learned the depth of the control. He's got the FBI in his pocket. It's not just Hell's Kitchen in general or New York City. It's the freaking FBI. It's like when Agent Nadine is sitting at the table with his supervisor and then his supervisor blows the dude away. I was just floored.
I was too.
I was floored. I'm like, shit. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And we don't need to spend a lot of time on Nadine, but what a great character he was.
He was, because I thought he was going to be a piece of shit at first.
Yep.
They give him the worst introduction. Like, he's failing as a family man, and he's just trying to get money. I'm like, oh, well, this just screams like he's corruptible. Like, I'm like, oh, he's done. And he turns out to be the most honorable out of all of them, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty doggone incredible. But Bullseye and Kingpin made a tremendous partnership in this show. Like, their characters blended with each other so well. Bullseye needing some kind of direction and Kingpin being all too willing to give it to him.
Can we also just talk about the fact that to make Bullseye just the worst villain in the show, they're like, you know what we need him to do? We need him to kill a Holocaust survivor. And I'm laughing not because that's funny, but it's just absolutely insane.
Extreme. It's like so extreme.
Most extreme. She makes it all the way through that and gets killed over a painting.
Does this have to be a thing? This is too far. We get it. He's bad. This is more weird than...
She didn't have to be a Holocaust survivor.
No.
She didn't. Now, it works in the favor of, like, Kingpin, because you're like, oh, okay, at least he has, like, some decency left of the fact that he's not going to just take it from a Holocaust survivor. Isn't that just so crazy?
Yeah, quite tough. I think part of what I appreciate so much about this season is there's just no sometimes when shows have this many episodes, what was it, 13 episodes?
Yeah.
You get at least a couple episodes that, and I don't mean the entire episode, but I just mean across the span of 13 episodes, you wind up with about 2 episodes worth of filler time, right? When it's all said and done, where it's like, we could have trimmed that fat, cut it down to about 10, 11 episodes, we would have been happy. I don't feel that way about this season.
To be honest, I haven't felt that way with Daredevil, period. Like, they do a good job with the time that they're allotted.
I agree. It's not wasted time. Like, plots aren't started and then just fall away recklessly.
Right.
Storylines are presented and tied off and resolved very well. So I appreciate that so much. The action in this season, so good. So good.
The fact that Matt was pushed to the limit of like, oh no, Kingpin actually found somebody that can kill me.
Mm-hmm.
He's determined that Dex could do it.
Yeah. He could.
And he could, for sure.
Could.
So to have that, which I think is also crazy, like Matt didn't have his fully armored suit and he somehow lived. And he took some shots, but he lived.
Don't try that again.
No.
Don't get the suit on, buddy. Get the armor.
Yes. But no,
it's incredible. The prison fight scene is nuts. Just nuts. It's like 11 minutes long. It's one cut. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. This to me is as good of a show as you can see. And particularly, and there's not a lot of competition in this realm, but just in superhero shows in general, it is still the best superhero, for me, the best season of superhero show that I've seen. I phrased that terribly.
No, I know what you're saying. Out of all the Marvel stuff, 100%.
Correct.
No, and the other fight scene too, like in the church, it was so funny. Oh, before that, I was like, Karen hiding in the church, and I was thinking, you know what? That's probably the best place. I was like, nothing ever bad happens in a church. Right. Jesus is there. Like, nobody's crazy enough. And immediately after, it all goes to shit. I'm like, I spoke too soon.
Well, part of what's great about that scene is that, because it sets that, that you certainly buy into, she's safe, she's going to be great. Okay, crap, not the case. In the comics, Bullseye kills Karen in a church. So if you know that about the comics, like, you're seeing it unfold, you're going, oh, she's dead. No, she's dead. She's dead. And instead, and I love this, I'm glad she didn't die. That would have sucked if her character died. So thank goodness they didn't Ben Ulricher. Instead, it's the priest that takes the Daredevil baton right in the chest.
Yeah. Well, I think if she does die, I think Matt kills Kingpin.
Correct. It just messes.
You can't go back.
Messes up the whole.
Well,
the whole
and here's the other thing too, and this is probably why she didn't die as well. Mm-hmm. There's a good thought in my head. I'm like, if they find out that the nun is Matt's mom, mm-hmm. she's toast. Mm-hmm. So I thought for sure that she was going to die. Sure. And I thought for sure Bullseye was killing Vanessa. Mm-hmm. I thought for sure Vanessa was dead for Bullseye.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. So just a phenomenal scene. I loved the themes of the show in this season in particular. Listen, it's important to recognize that isolation, okay, it's a toxic thing. And this is me getting on my soapbox a little bit here, but in our culture, it's too easy to be alone. Like, it's too easy to find entertainment, distractions, and you can create your own little silo that in theory sounds nice, but truly, that's not when any of us are at our best. Like, we need people. We need others in our lives. And Matt in this show, listen, he's at his best when he lets his guard down and lets his friends come into the mess that's his life, right? That's when Matt, like, the best version of Matt is revealed. The more that he tries to push his friends and in this case, his family away, the worse he is, worse off he is for it. But when he finally just goes, all right, here I am, come on in. That's when Matt comes, the best Matt comes out. So that's great. And I got some major Batman Begins vibes with this show. Like, I couldn't stop hearing why do we fault Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. Like, that just, this season reeked of that, which was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, I can't get over the line in the last fight scene where he just says, "You don't get to destroy who I am." It's like,
Yeah.
I beat you. That's chills.
Screaming it too.
Chills.
He's so angry.
Every time. Oh, so good. So good. Anything else you want to hit on with season 3, Dear Sweet Beans? Love it. Well, I'm glad we took that journey together. Daredevil, what a treat. And then sometime here in the next year or change, we'll get another little bit of Daredevil. So something to look forward to. Right? Love it. All right, let's transition away from recap time into we'll spend a little bit of time here. Not a lot. But again, Bob Iger, dear sweet friend of the pod, clearly a regular listener. Bob, earlier this week, dropping some hammers on the Disney side, telling folks in a press conference that, listen, we're cutting back on the quantity, putting out too much. We've been focused too much on the quantity, not nearly enough on the quality, and we need to get back to prioritizing the quality of what we're making.
Also, the fact that he said that we need to focus on actually making things entertaining and not having this lesson or mission to just tell and shove down people's throats.
Yeah, in other words, not an agenda, an actual
crazy
story.
And it gives me hope, Jordan. It gives me hope for the future, because if Disney can do it, if Disney's picking up on it, that means everyone else will follow.
Mm-hmm.
They will lead the charge.
Yep.
And soon it will go back to what it was in its prime in the 2010s.
Listen, leadership matters, and you can easily and very simply draw the line of here's when Bob Iger left, here's when the decrease in quality happened. Bob steps back in, Bob makes this cut, and I don't disagree at all. I do have optimism for the first time in a while that we're going to see a return to form.
Without the political agenda.
Correct. So there's a number of quotes we could reference here, but here's one of a couple of the key quotes. One, I might read more than just the one. All right. So in reference to what is being trimmed back, our dear sweet Bob said, you have to kill things that you no longer believe in. And it's not easy in this business, but you have to make those tough calls. We've actually made those tough calls. We've not been public about it, but we've killed a few projects already. We just didn't feel were strong enough. What a nice idea. And then he goes on to say, a lot of people think it's audience fatigue in regards in particular to the superhero genre, right? Said it's not audience fatigue. They want great films. And if you build it great, they will come. And there are countless examples of that.
Odd, because James Gunn said the same thing in a podcast.
So highly
just
recommend,
want you to know that as well.
Highly recommend that if you, dear listener, have not read any of the articles, go check it out yourself, because impressive. I'm not going to read all of what Bob Iger said, but suffice it to say, I read that and I go, this is a guy who understands what leadership is. One of the most foundational tenets of leadership is you have to lead, right? And what so many individuals in positions of leadership tend to do is deflect, say, well, it's somebody else's idea or somebody else's decision, or it's these circumstances around, I don't really want to make anybody upset or bother this person. And instead of saying, here's what I believe, therefore, here's what we're going to do. And recognizing it, you're never going to make everyone happy.
Call your own foul, though.
Right. Also recognize when you haven't done well enough. And all of what Bob Iger said just is dripping in accountability and providing a vision and a direction for where those that work with him should go.
And also
that's leadership.
And it also goes to show how much power we have as an audience to be like,
good point.
This is shit.
Very good point.
This is crap. Look at Madam Web in itself. Okay, prime example. If that doesn't scream, and Sony's a different case entirely, so this might not be a great example. But if it was,
why is it even? We've talked about this. Why is it even getting?
But if it was Disney, I think they'd be like, "Oh, they did not like this idea. Let's not do this again.
Yeah.
Let's be very careful with what we put out."
Yeah, there's plenty of Disney examples where it's just not made well. And I think there's like my buddy Eric and I have talked about how it's good that there are shows and movies that are targeting a different audience. I agree with that.
Yeah.
They just need to be made well.
Correct.
Right? Just don't make them sloppily or poorly or not have a story to tell.
So I
like there's just a level of craftsmanship that it's okay for us to expect.
Right. And so there's one of the former, like I listened to this former podcaster, Tim Ross, and he was talking about when he was a pastor, like he went in with a target audience in mind. And everybody else that would come, it would still hit them, but he's still hitting his main target audience. And that's what they just need to do. They need to figure out, okay, who is this for? Because if they make it entertaining for those people, it will hit the other people on the outside to be like, this doesn't have anything to do with me, but I can enjoy this as a good story.
Yeah.
And it's important for these other people to relate to.
And listen, from even just a flat out business point of view, the entertainment market has never been so saturated with content. And so if you want, in other words, it's so competitive to try and earn someone's time to have them give it to your content, to read it, to watch it, to what have you. So you would think the motivation would be real high to produce high quality content because you have to differentiate yourself. You can't just exist. You've got to be worthwhile, and that they're capable of it. They have all the resources. There is no lack other than a vision and a direction of here's the purpose behind why we are making this. If you don't have that, don't make it because you don't have to be in a hurry. There are, if we've said so many times, there's so many characters worth telling their stories. You don't need to burn through that list. Take your time. And you know what? If you don't get to one of them in a decade, that character will be there in the next decade. Like they're still going to be accessible to you. You've got all the rights to these characters. You don't need to be in a hurry. If you think about the Avengers Infinity Saga that spanned 10 years, it's a relatively, out of all the Marvel characters, that's a relatively small bunch. Truly. Now, critical core, no question. But there are so many characters in Marveldom that had no part to play in that 10-year span. So you can do that again with a different set of characters, but you have to have a vision and a reason for each of these characters to exist and to have something to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
We'll get into that more in future podcasts as far as, hey, so, what's getting canceled, what's getting trimmed back, and additional ramifications, but let's move on. Man of Steel, Riles, we won't spend nearly as much time on the other recaps because we do, we're pushing up against the wee hours of the evening. But shout out to Mr. Hurd, dear sweet listener of the pod.
Yes, thank you.
Eric, thanks for hosting us. God bless you.
What a guy.
What a champ. What a time we had. Just pure revelry. So wonderful. And I have not yet built Optimus Prime, but he's going to be coming. He's going to show up for the next pod. So he'll be ready. He'll be ready. He'll be on display. What a mighty
your
gift.
son must be really excited about that.
Yes, I told him, like, Wesley, Sunday we're putting this together where we got time. So he's pretty stoked. He's pretty stoked. And this book that Hurd bequeathed to me, The Marvel Age of Comics, I started getting into it. It's a great history of Marvel Comics. It's going to be a deep dive, but I'm looking forward to it. So, Man of Steel, great that you got to finally see it. Give me your thoughts. What'd you think?
It's definitely like you could definitely see Christopher Nolan producing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, I am not the biggest Superman guy. I'm not going to be the first one to wave the Superman banner. I understand, though, how important he is because he is their guy, and he needs to be their guy. Right. As much as Batman is their bestseller, Superman is still like their forefront, right? It's like
he's like their foundation,
right?
I mean, he just is. He's the first.
I compare Superman and Batman a lot to like Spider-Man and Wolverine in that sense, right? Like Spider-Man's like this hopeful, like he's trying to do the right thing of all times, and Batman and Wolverine aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Yeah. Wolverine will kill, Batman won't. There's a difference there. Sure. But outside of that, they kind of have their uses in that front. Yep. So I understand how important he is. For me, my favorite iteration will always be Justice League animated series, just because I thought they did very well of this balance of him being a Boy Scout and coming in. So with this movie, there's some things that were just hard for me to like get behind for Superman as a character. Right. Like, I don't think there's a world he lets his dad die. Even if his dad tells him no, I don't think there's a world that he lets him die. Yeah. I just don't see it. Right. I see him breaking that rule every time. I'm sorry, I just do. Yep. It doesn't make sense.
It just feels out of character.
Right. Yep. That and this is going to sound like such a cop out, but the final that final scene with him and Zod going at it, and he's like, "You'll have to kill me." I'm sorry, but Superman would find a way. And again, that sounds like a cop-out because that doesn't sound realistic. Like, it's sometimes you're going to have to cross the line. Sure. But, like, for me, and especially with it being, I think it was a bold decision to do this in the first Superman movie, is to have him kill his villain because it's so not Superman. Yep. Like, so for me, that was a little hard too. I thought Zod was great. I thought that whole thing was great with Krypton, him wanting to bring Krypton back. Sure. He was going to use Earth to do it. Yeah. Totally.
Good motive.
Great. Makes sense. Perfect. The only weird thing for me was the artificial births and the fact that they hammered home that Clark was the only live birth in like centuries. That was weird. Didn't need to exist.
They didn't flesh that out. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Do you, okay? I'm not gonna sit and like, that's not a deal breaker for me in this movie.
We spent too much time with fetuses in this past week.
Yes. It was a weird hill to like climb. Right. Again. Yep. I'm not gonna die on it though. Yep. I think that was the hardest part for me is this Superman was just
really well said.
He's not, like, they even talk about how the S stands for hope. I didn't come out of that feeling hopeful. Right. Now, watching that movie, I think I do understand Batman versus Superman a little bit more.
Oh, for sure.
In the sense of like, of course Batman feels this way because Superman killed a guy. Right. And he's like, well, if he's going to kill that guy, when's it going to be where he just is like, you know what?
What's to stop him from...
Zod was right. We should take over. Right. So, and again, I way too early for Batman to be fighting Superman. Okay, way too early. So true. And still very forced for a movie. Correct. But I also I understand Zach has a very different take for a superhero franchise that he wanted to do. And again, I think that's great. I don't think he should have been with Superman. Yep. Now, if he wanted to do I would be very interested in a Batman from him. I feel like he would have been nailed the dark and gritty.
Would have been a better fit.
Right. Yeah. I would have loved him on like Suicide Squad, where you can just kill whoever you want. I just don't think. Yeah. I think he's too leveled for Superman. Yeah. And again, I enjoyed the movie. Right. I don't think it was a bad movie. I would watch it again. Yep. It's just like knowing now, it's like that's just not the version of Superman I enjoy. Yep. As a superhero guy. Yeah. So
yeah, that's phenomenal recap out of you. Really, really outstanding. And I agree. Like I've told you before, I enjoy this movie a lot, and I'm self-aware enough to know that I enjoy it beyond what it probably should be
Right.
enjoyed. But it is like it's an alternate take on the Superman character. And I think what Warner Brothers was hoping for is that, hey, we've got Zack Snyder who creates outstanding visuals, great fight scenes, and then we've got Christopher Nolan coming off the Batman movies who just created the greatest superhero trilogy all time, at least up to that point. Beyond that,
right.
we can debate. And they thought this is a good partnership. This is how we balance Zach out. But the problem is, I don't think they were actually the right partnership, because Christopher Nolan's idea of realism of, well, it just doesn't apply very well to Superman, because he's like, well, if Superman were to appear on Earth would freak out. They would not be excited that he's here. They'd suspect him. And so you're absolutely right. There's not hopefulness in this movie. There's just a somberness that carries throughout, and there's never a turn of, there's the deep breath of hope that Superman represents. It's just, he's constantly doubted. He's doubting himself, and they never struck the balance that is on brand for Superman. Because you're absolutely right. Like, he wouldn't let his dad die in the comics. He wouldn't kill Zod. He just doesn't kill. And those are such off-brand for Superman moves that, listen, does it work in an alternate take? Sure. But this is where Zach needed to get reined in, and Chris just wasn't the right guy to do it, because he was all for this is more realistic. Yeah. But it just wasn't a good fit.
And this Superman, right, I will say, this Superman would have worked really well in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Yep. Those two, that's where I'm like, okay, this Superman works for that version of Batman. So if Batman versus Superman would have been our boy Christian Bale going up against Superman, makes more sense.
Yep.
And technically Batfleck still made sense for this, but
that's the thing, though. It makes, you're absolutely right, Batman v Superman, the motive makes sense, but it's not what we want to see.
No.
We don't want Batman and Superman fighting against each other. We want them working together.
And not this early.
Right.
Too early.
Right. So we don't want Batman, and not even just fighting against each other. He's freaking trying to murder him. He's trying to kill him. But wait, Batman doesn't kill. So what do we do? So,
and it's poorly fleshed out on why he crossed the line.
Yeah.
Like, it's implied that Robin died, but it's not implied which Robin died. It's not implied how big his family is or anything like that.
And you read, because it has come out, in the years since, what Zack Snyder's ultimate intentions were. I mean, no one was there to rein him in. No one was there to provide a boundary and say, no, you don't understand. We're making a DC universe, not a Snyderverse.
Right.
But that's what it became. It became his own personal playground. And so for all the collateral damage of Henry Cavill no longer being Clark Kent, and we won't go down the list, but it's for the best long term.
Yes.
That the plug ultimately gets pulled. There's disappointment there, because I love Henry Cavill as Superman. It's a great movie. What I truly enjoy the most about the movie is the relationship between Clark and Cal and his dads.
I agree.
That is the best part of the movie for me, especially since becoming a dad. It has become that much more meaningful to watch those scenes. Like, the scene truly that which tugs at my heart every time is when Jonathan Kent is revealing to Clark, hey, so you're just not of this world, right? Like, you're an alien, and we're here to take care of you. And Clark says, well, can't I, just pretend to be your son? And he says, you are my son, right? And the sincerity with which he delivers that line is just so good.
Right.
And there's a powerful pause before he keeps going. He says, but somewhere else, you have another father out there, and he sent you here for a reason. You owe it to yourself to find out what that reason is. That's beautiful. So I'll always hold on to that.
Yeah.
That just nugget of gold out of this very imperfect movie that, as years pass, I think will be, in a weird way, easier to enjoy for what it is. It's like, this is a take, a version. It's like, all right, well, there it is. It's not the definitive. This is who Superman is, and that's so all good things.
Mhm.
So on that note, it's time for another classic JP and the Beans top 5. And with Man of Steel obviously no longer being the Superman that we're going to see, I thought, or I was inspired by, hey, what are some of the best movies, franchises, shows that we wish would have kept going in some way that we would have liked to have seen carry on? Obviously, those are going to be imperfect creations, so we're not saying this was perfect, but we would have liked to have seen it given some more time. Maybe it could have been better, so on and so forth. So, Riley, without further ado, you go first.
My number 5.
Yes, sir.
X-Men Origins. Now, I know this is ballsy. Because Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine, is very hit and miss. Okay? Had some good stuff.
Great hits.
And then had some very bad stuff. Okay? But I would have loved them to just take a couple other characters and build. And we kind of got it with X-Men First Class. We got a little bit of it. But I would have just enjoyed that to another extent. Like, you have Halle Berry as Storm. You could have done a really cool hour and a half movie with Storm. And then you can throw in a couple other X-Men just to kind of bulk her up a little bit if you need to. Jean Grey, Cyclops. There's a lot of characters you could have chosen. Nightcrawler, for Pete's sake. So, for me, I would have loved to see more of those types of movies where it just kind of highlights one X-Men character. And again, flesh out the cast with some other ones in there, but that's my choice for number 5.
That's an absolutely great pull. I had totally forgotten about that. It was originally supposed to be that, right? Like,
I think so.
Origins, just ongoing anthology of sorts.
And I don't know who they had planned.
Sure.
But, I mean, come on, you could have made a case for Gambit after that movie. I was just going to say Gambit,
because he was introduced well enough in that movie. Yeah, that's great. Number 5 is actually maybe a little surprising here. Fantastic Four.
The original?
Yeah.
I would have.
I like that, and here's why. The characters as a whole they provide stories worth telling, so they're fascinating to me just in general. They're a great, just eclectic collection, and the casting, that original casting, nothing wrong with it. Now, I don't think there could have been. There's very few movies that are casted that well. Yeah. I'm not like holding the torch for Jessica Alba as like a perfect Sue Storm, but she's fine. I believe that Vanessa Kirby's going to crush it. She's Jessica Alba's a beautiful person. I don't think she's a great actress. Sorry. But I'm not saying that you should have pulled the franchise plug because of that. They just, unfortunately, didn't do a very good job of telling stories.
Yeah.
Especially the second one. Like the first one, there's something to do with
some substance.
Yeah, there's some substance.
Enough to have a second one.
Yeah, and the second one just was lazy. So that was too bad. I would have liked to have seen I'd like to see those movies continue. You've done some things. My number 4 is the Blade trilogy. You just keep telling these movies forever. Freaking Vampire Hunter, Vampire Killer. Turn it into a TV show if you need to, if you don't want to keep making the movies. Right. But you're telling me that you've got Wesley Snipes as Blade, and then the third movie you bring in Ryan Reynolds as a partner to him, and then you're like, and we're done. Screw you. How dare you? Give me Wesley and Ryan for multiple more movies, please. Yeah. Don't give me a tease of one and then done. That's pure poppycock. By the third movie, they had Triple H playing a vampire.
It's so funny to me.
Awesome. So you mean we could have had more wrestlers being vampires? There's endless wrestlers that could have had as vampires. The fact that
it wasn't The Undertaker or Kane is what is mind-boggling to me.
They're still out there. So, the Blade trilogy. That's my number 4.
My number 4 belongs to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. We were gonna get a 4 until Sony's like, nope. But because Spider-Man 3's failure was not on Raimi. It's 100% not on Raimi. the studio forced Venom on him.
Yep.
I would have loved to see what that movie would have looked like without Venom.
Right.
I don't think Venom would have gotten involved at all in any of these movies if it weren't for Sony. Not that I didn't want Venom, because Venom is awesome.
But there's too much in that movie.
Right.
It didn't belong.
And number 4, they were talking about Vulture and Electro. Or no, sorry. Vulture and Mysterio. We would have gotten those 2 characters a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Raimi's take on, well, because it was going to be Bruce Campbell as Mysterio.
Yep.
That was going to be the Mysterio. And the guy that they had picked for Vulture, I don't remember, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was a perfect casting choice. I would have loved to see what Raimi did with it. And you let him end the franchise, if that's what he wanted to do, on his terms. Not this forced 3 box office failure. The poor guy.
Yeah,
right?
host. He did.
He got 100% host. And so did Toby. So, that's my number 4.
Toby. Bruce Campbell has such a great scene in Spider-Man 3. Gosh, with the maitre d'. He's
so
freaking awesome.
You gotta love him.
Yeah.
My number 3, Man of Steel 2. Now, after seeing the first one, I wanted more time. I want to see more Superman villains get involved.
Yes.
Right? We have Zod. I would have loved Luther. Luther would have been odd, I think. I think he would have been a good, like, supporting villain.
Right.
I think
initially, no question.
I think Brainiac would have been perfect.
Yep.
I think Brainiac would have been perfect for this setting.
Yes.
Right? They already dealt with one alien.
Yes,
I think it would have been
bring
great.
in more aliens.
Correct.
Truly.
I think that's a no-brainer to me.
Totally agree.
And then kind of have Lex start setting up Bizarro, Metallo.
Right.
You can even say Parasite.
Yep.
Like have him set up these other like Superman villains on the side.
Right.
I think that would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
And just to see, I would have really loved to see the growth. Because I think you could have gotten him to the point of being the symbol of hope.
Yep.
And we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Like,
doesn't even have the opportunity.
Like, if you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man, we didn't really get him as Spider-Man until No Way Home.
Right.
Where he finally, like, that's him.
There's your
There he is. Like, he was Spider-Man, but he didn't fully get to the point until the end.
Exactly.
And thank God we're getting more of him.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But we'll never see that with Henry, and I think it's a shame.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. That's also my number 3, as a matter of fact, Man of Steel 2. So I love the take on Brainiac being the villain, because one of the things that Man of Steel got right was they gave Superman a difficult villain or villains to defeat, right? So it was enjoyable. There's genuine tension in the action when he's going up against other Kryptonians, right? So absolutely, Brainiac's another worthwhile villain. You don't want to just pop Luther in there.
And he kills the rest of his
That's what we did in Justice in Batman v Superman.
Right.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no question. You want to take time to build that up.
I mean, yeah, look, you could have brought Supergirl into the mix in that one. You could have brought in the city of Kandor. Because think about it, at that point, he's like, I'm the last.
Yep.
If you bring in all these other people of like, oh, I'm not the only one of my race left, and then
bring in Martian Manhunter, who is the last of his race.
Yeah, that's true. But then have it all ripped away again, maybe? Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no question. My number 2 is the original Spider-Man trilogy. All the things you said, completely true. I really would like to see what Spider-Man 3 would have been with Sandman as the primary villain, with Harry Osborn, going crazy. They set that up at the end of Spider-Man 2, which is okay. It's organic, fine, but I don't want Harry as the primary villain. That's not what I'm here for. It gets too old too quick.
It's interesting with Sandman too, because this version of him, I don't know if he could have been the main focus. And that's not a knock against the actor, because I think the actor was a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
But like, he rode the line too much of like,
he's very, very empathetic, or sympathetic rather.
Like caring about his daughter and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they tried with Venom in there
Sure.
just to be like, oh no, this dude's the bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I could have been wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what Raimi's full vision was, so.
Who's to say? But anyway,
Right.
that's my number 2, the original Spider-Man trilogy.
My number 2 is Iron Man. I wanted more Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I will never get enough of that, to be honest with you.
It's a great pull.
And it's going to be,
Yeah.
people are going to be like, you got 3 movies and you got a couple Avengers movies and you got Captain America Civil War. I don't care. Okay?
Can't have too much.
Look, the first one was so good.
Yeah.
The second one, The third one, Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Hall of Armor call.
Right. Yeah, each of those movies has portions that are fantastic, but neither goes from start to finish.
Right.
Yeah.
Outside of Obadiah, we didn't get like another good solid Iron Man villain.
Right.
The next 2 solid Iron Man villains were formed for Spider-Man to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Weird how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like imagine him versus Shang-Chi's version of the Mandarin.
Correct.
That would be so much better than what we got.
Right.
So,
right.
Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. He should have had more we should have more Iron Man movies than Thor movies.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
Totally fair on that. Your number 1, Saw.
My number 1, this just fits the entire show today. Daredevil.
Love it.
Now we are getting another season, but we should have.
I thought you meant the Ben Affleck movie.
No, God. No. We should have had a season. We should have had 3 more seasons at least. He should have been in more movies.
Yep. There's clearly a desire on Charlie Cox, on his side,
correct,
to keep being the character.
Right. I don't understand. The thought process of not executing on that is insane to me.
I know it. Yep.
There is hope to get him back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get our hopes up. Strong rumors that Spider-Man 4 will be street focused and it'll be Daredevil and Spider-Man. And it won't be a mentor role. It will be a buddy cop role. And I'm all for it. Okay, that's fantastic. Those 2 are like very close in the comics.
Yep.
So to see Peter actually be acknowledged as a peer to other superheroes instead of like this up and comer, I'm all for it, man.
Right.
So Daredevil, Charlie Cox, that's my number 1.
It's an awesome number 1. It's awesome. My number 1 is the original X-Men trilogy.
Fair.
X2 is one of the best superhero movies still that I have ever seen. And the first X-Men movie, listen, is it dated with its effects? Yes, but its storytelling
still works.
It still works. It's so sound. The casting is incredible. It's phenomenal. Not just because Hugh Jackman, who we all know, but remembering Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen in their respective roles as Professor Xavier and Magneto. Tremendous. Halle Berry is Storm. Great. Famke Janssen, I think is how you pronounce her name.
I've never seen her in anything else, but she was a fantastic Jean Grey.
She was great. Farts, I'm blanking on the name of the actor who played Cyclops. But the way that they...
James Marsden?
Well done. Thank you. Yep, Mr. Marsden.
I'm surprised I knew that.
Frick Scott Summers.
He's great.
Perfect.
And I don't feel like we got enough of him.
No, and that's the thing. There's so much untapped potential in that trilogy. Like, they started sprinkling in additional characters at a great pace. They didn't overdo it at first. You got Nightcrawler in the second movie, but then he's just not in the third one. The third one was just a...
By the way, his introduction... we talked about that.
Great scene.
We talked about that before.
All-time great scene. Yeah. So that was one of the most disappointing movie-going experiences of my, at the time, young life, was X-Men 3. 1 and 2 had been so good, and 3 was just a mess. And it just did the previous 2 movies dirty by killing off characters. And so anyway, that's a trilogy that I wish, first of all, the third movie would have gone better, and then it also just could have continued, because man, there's some good stories to tell. And I'm aware Days of Future Past tried to kind of,
That was a great movie.
redeem some of that. It was
I like
a great
that movie.
It's a great movie.
First Class, also great movie.
First Class is phenomenal. I enjoyed Apocalypse a lot too.
That one was okay.
Yep.
That's where I fall off.
I know. I enjoy it more than others. It's weird. But regardless, there's my number one.
Fair enough.
There you have it. I think that's it.
That's definitely it.
Come on. We just Dune 2'd that mother trucker.
Yes, we did. Twas a grind.
That's right, but at least we didn't have any fetuses talking to us.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, we didn't talk back.
And if your babies are talking, don't tell me. I don't.
Oh, no, thank you.
Don't talk to me until you're at least 3 years old. That's
right.
my rule. So
That's right.
I don't know if that just keeps track. I'm assuming babies talk before that, but
Yeah, about 2 years old, but yeah, you're really close. You're really good.
I still don't want any of your kids talking to me until they're 3.
That's fair. I'll let JoJo know to zip.
Yes. I want you to be mute until 3.
Practice the art of silence, young one.
No, I won't wish that on your child. I hope she's very intelligent and talks at the appropriate time.
She has a lot to say.
I'm sure she does.
I understand a very small percentage of it, but there's a large volume of words.
Well.
Oh, take us home, Ryan.
Yes, I will. Like, subscribe. I'm not going to go too in depth. I'm tired.
So all the things. We appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. And on that note, Godspeed.
Peace.